still feel so stressed.
I'm sorry.
It's okay, hasn't even been a week since the gala. Whew, okay. On the night of Monday, September 13th, 2021, at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, you might have seen me looking like this. But what you didn't see behind the scenes was me feeling a bit more like this.
It looks perfect.
Does it, David?
Yeah, no, I'm not even kidding you.
No, I feel terrible. I don't think I should go. It was the most exhilarating and the most stressful experience of my entire life. This is the story of my very first Met Gala. I'm saying very first as if I'm gonna get invited back. Who the fuck knows?
Get over here! Wait, you look so amazing. Okay, so tell me about this.
Well, I was gonna wear a dress, but it fell through 3 hours ago. So, hold on. Let's not get ahead of ourselves just yet. First, some context, because I know not everyone out there cares as much about fashion as I do, and you might not be familiar with this event because it is actually so much more than just a star-studded party. And apologies, I'm about to sound vaguely intelligent for a minute, which I know y'all aren't necessarily here for, but please allow me this before I share my many embarrassing emotional breakdowns. Like, so incredibly, deliciously embarrassing. Let me be smart real quick. Since 1948, the gala was established as a fundraiser for the Costume Institute at the Met and heralds the opening for each year's fashion exhibit. The soiree became a much more glamorous occasion when Diana Vreeland began consulting in 1972, and during her tenure, the idea of the annual theme was introduced, where guests dressed according to the exhibition's subject matter. Aina Wintour, the illustrious editor-in-chief of Vogue, began to oversee everything from the committees to the exclusive guest list in 1995. And public interest in the gala only exploded since then, particularly after 2015 when the internet laid eyes on none other than Rihanna in that iconic guope gown. Now, I had explored the Costume Institute a few times before 2015, but I particularly remember the impact of connecting Rihanna in that gorgeous yellow couture with my visit to China through the Looking Glass exhibit, which is still the museum's most visited fashion exhibition. The intrigue generated by the gala both inspired more people to learn about art history, while also bringing up some crucial and controversial questions about the subject matter. And that's what great art does. It creates a conversation that challenges our cultural perception, and my argument for the Met Gala's relevance is that it makes millions more people aware of the dialogue that typically was reserved for the elite. Anyway, I'd recommend that even if you're not into the gala side of all this, the Met side definitely deserves your attention should you ever be in New York. The idea of viewing fashion through an artistic and historical lens is a relatively new concept in the fine art world, and I think it's fascinating to consider that what we wear and the pieces we critique and make hilarious memes out of today will serve as important markers of the times, just as much as any painting or sculpture. Okay, I know what some of y'all might be thinking. I'm waxing poetic about first world issues, and I agree that there's a distinct privilege I have to be so invested in fashion, let alone invited to such a high-profile event, let alone being able to have this huge viral platform where I can share my story with all of you. Like, Aina Wintour had to see me and say, yeah, whatever, he seems acceptable, which is such a crazy thought because I honestly never dreamed I'd be given this opportunity. But what I hope to make relatable with my experience is that this is a universe I'm very interested in but have only dipped my toes into, and suddenly I had the chance to dive into the deep end, and I took it. So we need to take this back to the Tuesday before the event because that is when I first got the call that I had been invited. That's right, I got ready for the Met Gala in 6 days.
All of us were spiraling the first.
No, we were all. I'm spiraling.
You're still spiraling.
Yeah, still.
That spiraling consisted of a whirlwind of conflicting thoughts that flooded my mind. For instance, could I pull everything together with such short notice? And how would you interpret this year's theme of American fashion? What would Vogue and the fashion critics and the other celebrities think of you? I mean, this is the biggest stage for style in the galaxy. Worse yet, what are the millions of people who don't know what you're going to say? I mean, can you mentally sustain that unprecedented amount of scrutiny? Even worse yet, what if you disappoint those who do know you and fall short of their expectations? But this might be your one and only chance. You shouldn't go, you don't deserve this, they're all gonna call you an influencer! But I work in film and TV and I'm selling novels and run my own digital production company. Doesn't matter. They don't know that. They're just gonna write about you like you're a stupid, nasty
little influencer.
But my friends and family are so excited for me.
You don't have any friends. Nobody likes you.
Ultimately, I told the nagging voice in my head that I'm not listening and went, fuck it. You only live once and you'll never look younger. So I accepted the invite and began the mad, nerve-wracking scramble to figure out what the hell was I going to wear.
Hey, guess who's going to the Met Gala? Guess who's going to the Met Gala?
I live in LA and had work I had to finish, so I booked a flight for that Friday. The first question at hand was assembling a creative team who could collaborate with me. You might have gotten a true resemblance of that with other Met Gala preparation videos, which typically go something like this. Oh, hi guys, I wasn't expecting you. Come on in. I'm just getting ready for the event. Oh, I'm a little nervous, but really excited to finally show the world what me and my prolific designer have been working on for months. But it's just me right now, alone in my hotel room with my entire team. That's not a read in any way. That's how everyone should approach public events at this level. It's perfectly par for the course. I, on the other hand, looked a little more like this.
Yeah, we need to see if your ass fits in that.
Oh, I don't know.
It's fine.
Regardless, I immediately booked the talent I knew I couldn't move forward without. My hairstylist, a makeup artist, nails. But for my wardrobe, this is the Super Bowl of fashion. So I knew that I could directly work with the designer. And with the invaluable help of Vogue, I was able to lock down a vision and a game plan. The first thing that came out of my mouth was in line with how my personal style has evolved. For my debut, I want to unabashedly represent my queer and Asian identities, particularly considering the American theme, with something striking and gender fluid, and I really, under no circumstance, see myself wearing a suit. Just as a clarification, the wonderful people at Vogue and YouTube and honestly every designer and their staff were beyond thoughtful and accommodating throughout this journey. They all really wanted to help me realize an authentic expression of myself. So, out of respect for the designer, I won't be naming them because they are at zero fault for what inevitably happened. I take full responsibility for my own fashion emergency, and the first major mistake I made in hindsight was arguably the most important person on a styling team, who is the stylist themselves. Stylists are, in a lot of ways, the real directors of a red carpet look. And my amazing stylist, Roman Sipe, has helped shape many memorable moments for me in the past, like this red number, this K-pop look, this pink dream, this dark drama, and this, and so on. He and I have worked together long enough where I know that he truly understands my voice. However, he is out of the country right now, and I didn't want to betray him with a new stylist for the Met Gala, so I banked on the designer and went without my stylist, who's usually the one to make shit happen in moments of crisis. And so I kind of felt like I entered this situation like a very accommodating hanger, because I was terrified of coming off as naive or worse, demanding. Immense pressure brings out your best and worst qualities, and for me, it's my insistence to put on a brave, friendly face and make others think that I'm confidently handling everything, even when everything's totally falling apart. Call it being Korean or Capricorn, or that kid who volunteered to lead every group project. But goddamn, when you externally display competence and grace while you're internally freaking out, you're only setting yourself up for an inevitable downfall. And boy, oh boy, did I end up falling hard. By this time, I wasn't totally losing my mind yet. Matt will attest that I was cool as a cucumber.
This is the most stressed out I've seen Eugene in my entire life.
No, I prefer to say that I was doing a lot of intense soul searching. Due to the pandemic, the 2020 Met Gala was canceled, and this year's was postponed to September, as it's famously held on the first Monday of May. And this year's theme is In America, a lexicon of fashion. It's a bit of a conundrum because it raises a very important line of questioning about what being American today means. So I hung out and talked with designer Prabal Gurung about his interpretation of this year's theme.
When you think about America, right, we think about we've been so conditioned to think Americana and American fashion or American style is one point, which is always from a colonial lens.
Yes.
What America is in complete honest, it's Black culture, it's Asian culture, it's Latino and mixed cultures, all of us together. The piece that I have there is from my 10-year anniversary collection called Who Gets to Be American, because part of my work has always been about identity, politics, culture, and how through fashion we can make people who are always considered invisible, visible.
Yes.
Met Gala is always exciting to go, it's fun, and oftentimes, you look at the pieces that's there and you look at the designers you admire and their work is there. You do wonder if your work is ever going to be there. It's not the ultimate goal, but when it happened this year, I realized they saw us, not just me, that our community. Met Gala is a pivotal moment of New York City, and New York City is the absolute potential of America.
As you can see, Prabal and other creatives, particularly those from marginalized communities, were proactively thinking about how they'd make a statement regarding the reshaping of stereotypical Americana to more accurately reflect ourselves. And the first thing I personally recalled was my mother, who I owe my entire sense of style to. Many of you know that I was born and raised in Texas in the 80s and 90s, and when my mother, who already loved fashion while growing up in Seoul, realized that we were the only Asian family in town, she instinctively believed that we needed to dress to impress. Now, we didn't have the means to buy anything from a place like Neiman Marcus, so she shopped at this store called Last Call, which aggregated the discounted designer pieces that were even ignored on the sale rack and slashed their prices to make them affordable. Her reasoning for putting me in all these little suits and bow ties and Tommy Hilfiger and Ralph Lauren was that she knew we were at risk of being bullied, so we needed to project a different type of strength. It was actually brilliant, really, to consider that many others probably assumed that we didn't speak English when they saw us. But what was immediately communicated was that we dressed really fucking well, so don't fuck with us. And that first impression gave us a baseline of respect. I remember when I told my mom that I wanted to wear those, oversized Dragon Ball Z shirts and Jinkos, she refused, saying, and I quote, "You can't look like an Asian nerd because people would target me more. I was already getting pushed around." I didn't get it at the time, but I sort of do now, because even if you don't want to admit it, the way you present yourself through fashion speaks volumes before you even open your mouth. She would wear so much discount Chanel that everyone was convinced that we were rich, but when they came to my house and saw it was only one story and without a pool, they realized we were just stylish. Because where I come from, a 2-story house and a pool meant you had money. Her philosophy would greatly come into play as I began to own and project my sexuality more comfortably. And it's really because of her that my interest in fashion is so much more than skin deep. Like the costume exhibit, what you wear reflects so much about who you are at that time in your life. And my mom's story of an immigrant using clothing and accessories as a tool to overcome her circumstances and the negative perception about her is as distinctly American as you can get. That's the inspiration I carried with me coming into this year's theme. Also, I love my dad, but he couldn't give a flying fuck about what he's wearing, so she dressed him too. Yeah, my dad was like cargo shorts and polos every day, baby. So on Friday, still feeling unprepared, but far more ecstatic about the inconceivable fact that I was even invited in the first place, I head out early in the morning to get my ass to New York. Everything is about to close down because I'm only getting here pretty late in the afternoon. By the time I arrived to the East Coast, and as I communicated more closely with those who were helping me organize my schedule, my second major mistake dawned on me. Although this was far more circumstantial. I had not prepared for the fact that this, even by the Big Apple standards, was an unnaturally, preposterously busy week for the fashion world.
I'm Justin, and this week is New York Fashion Week, VMA and Met Gala. So we do have a lot of clients coming here to get prepped for this event.
You heard that correctly. I entered the Lion's Den during New York Fashion Week. So all of my contacts were already stretched incredibly thin. On top of that, the night before the Met Gala was the MTV Video Music Awards. And considering that all of these were some of the first huge events happening after a year and a half of pandemic delays, the entire industry was under an extreme amount of duress. And then there's little old me with less than a week of preparation for the biggest event of my life so far. There I was relying on the good graces of awesome people who, in any other situation, would have dedicated more focus on my needs if they had any time to spare. But I knew, even then, that this is how the world works sometimes. Not in mysterious ways, but in ways that make you feel like everything is out of your control. And a large part of being an adult is learning how to adapt and thrive without being an asshole to others. So my instincts kicked in and I knew that I had to put my faith in the process and hope that everything would work out. However, coming to terms with how the real world works does not necessarily quell your anxiety, so after several days of very serious beauty prep where I didn't touch alcohol, carbs, or coffee and tried to get all my beauty sleep because, I was extremely worried that my regular lifestyle would make me look puffy, Friday night I broke and I grabbed multiple cold brews, and then I went to a drag show with my friends and drank my butt off because I needed a moment to check out of this mayhem. You know what? This turned out to be a good decision because I needed all the positive energy to get me through a truly exhilarating and harrowing weekend. No therapy like a drag show.
Yeah.
You should do a nail reveal.
Yes, I'm thinking like a coffin, but like not too long, but like maybe about here.
Yeah.
So, due to the aforementioned climate where the entire fashion industry was tied up, I woke up on Saturday with several pressing issues. One, I had yet to have a time set where I could be fitted in anything, as shows and other clients were holding the designer hostage. So it's 2 days before the gala, and I had yet to put the few options I was planning for on my body, which was a cause for concern. I admit I was very flattered that everyone who saw my measurements commented that I could be fine because I was close to sample size. But that's not sufficient consolation when I also had to consider that I had to make executive decisions about my nails, hair, and makeup without knowing exactly which pieces I would end up wearing. Also, I have a surprising amount of heft in my trunk area, and some of these stunning, very skinny male models who were tailored into these garments lacked my assets.
Oh no. The hips.
The hips. How much ass is like stuck?
You're Madonna from the VMAs.
Nevertheless, I tried to push through the doubt and was so excited to be able to work with Sojin Oh, an artist who is making a huge splash in the nail world.
How I get inspiration, I like watch nature documentaries, I go camping with friends, I look at nature photos online, and that's how I get inspired because I feel like nature is the best art.
So you're doing almost like artistic interpretations of nature through nail art.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
This Met Gala, she did original looks for Grimes, Hunter Schafer, and Lil Nas X, and managed to squeeze me in as well. What's interesting is that although I had yet to finalize what my full ensemble would be, I was extremely adamant about one thing. I wanted the opportunity to work with other talents who were queer or of color, and especially artists of Asian descent. Namely, because with what little time I had, I knew that our perspectives in some way organically aligned. We ended up deciding on a freehand design she does called Fungi, which she based off of microscopic close-ups of bacteria and viruses in petri dishes. And there's a lot I wanted to say as an Asian American this year. I consciously was drawn to ideas that would highlight and subvert the ideas surrounding what the past couple of years have been like for my community. Others might not notice or care for that attention to detail, but if I was still in flux about my ultimate dress, I found some comfort knowing that even a small nod, even with these nails, to a larger message regarding my identity was being interpreted. But the sun set and it was one less day of prep and I still hadn't been able to get with the designer. Just know that I took this in stride. I slept peacefully like a baby.
Eugene had multiple breakdowns when he was in New York. He called me almost crying a couple of times. He just didn't want to let anyone down, and it made me feel really bad for him.
I never cried.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you
Don't
did.
tell people that.
Yes, you did.
No, lies. He's lying. I didn't cry at all. In fact, I waited to cry so that I was in front of a large group of people. I had a couple very inspiring items on my itinerary on Sunday that distracted me from the pandemonium that was wreaking havoc on my brain. The first of which was an opportunity Vogue gave me to see Kenneth Nicholson's Spring 2022 show at Fashion Week. Now, Kenneth is making a big name for himself since launching his label in 2016, integrating traditional women's wear into menswear in this romantic, forward-thinking way. I really dig it.
I like making beautiful things, and I want to expand the narrative of menswear. So I got into the industry because I felt like there was a serious void. You know, I feel like women have all these tools to emote different emotions, but I felt like as it relates to the men's wardrobe, we just really lacked that. And so I wanted to essentially just give tools. Whether that was like using new techniques or whether it was creating clothes that actually have movement, you know.
When'd you get started? Where are you from?
Originally from Texas.
Obviously.
No.
Shut.
Yeah.
I'm from Texas.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Born and bred.
Okay.
What I love about the connection we made is that here we were, Black and Asian queer men from Texas, about to represent ourselves at the Met Gala. It was kind of wonderful and poetic to recognize how the faces we associate with occupying the spotlight in these spaces were slowly but surely changing in this time. I can't really explain it except for, there's a lot of upsetting but important critical thoughts surrounding identity that's constantly applied to the businesses we're in, yada, yada, yada. But, it was just really nice to see someone else succeeding. That evening, I was able to finally meet a couple of other recognizable faces who I love to see succeeding in the digital space, and they are the one and only Nikkie de Jager and Jackie Aina, who I met at a cocktail reception held by YouTube's head of fashion and beauty, Derek Blasberg. Remember Derek because he comes into very important play later in my story. I'll let Nikkie and Jackie tell you where their heads were at the night before the big event.
I honestly, I feel good. I feel probably 10 times more confident than I did 4 days ago. The dress, beautiful. The dress is good. I just picked up my bag today. So every detail that needs to be worked out as of today has been perfected.
And you?
I feel bad. I feel bad.
No, I know what you're preparing, and it's gonna be iconic.
I can't wait for the moment where I walk up to the photographers and they're like, thank you. You're like, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, okay, you got it. All right. Okay, you got it. Thanks.
Listen, I promise you.
Jennifer Aniston's coming. When
y'all go up there and you have your clicks, I'm gonna scream from the side.
Thank you.
I'm gonna be like, yes!
Oh my god.
Yes!
Yes.
Silent nail click.
Let me tell y'all, after bonding with them over our shared nerves and excitement and denouncing the rampant imposter syndrome that we all felt, I have to proclaim that I absolutely love these two women with my entire heart and soul.
No, I actually feel like so much better now.
Yeah.
I genuinely do. I hope you guys do too.
Here's to us.
Here's to us.
And here's to a wonderful, unforgettable night.
Yes. Cheers to Anna.
Cheers to Anna.
Shout out to Anna. Anna.
I know many people will argue over the next few years about the so-called validity of people who came from the digital space being allowed at events like the Met Gala. And I'm not here to dissect that because we are so uniquely fortunate to have these platforms where we can speak with you. But what I will fight you on conclusively is the fact that Nikkie and Jackie have tirelessly represented their viewers and underserved demographics with authenticity and grace for years. I fucking love to see people like that shining on a global stage. Also, Nikkie asked if I was hungry, so she and her manager Wes and I went out for a bite, and I started suggesting something hip in New York before she stopped me to say, no, they had to find a Chipotle. Apparently they always get Cheesecake Factory and Chipotle when they visit the States because they don't have them in the Netherlands, apparently. I guess in an alternate timeline, Nikkie and I would have dressed as a Chipotle burrito and, a Cheesecake Factory slice for the theme because, what's more American than that? And so, full of my extra guac, I went to bed full of new friendships, but devoid and empty of confidence for what was coming the next day, because I still haven't tried on my outfit. So I wake up. It's the day of the gala, and I am surprisingly calm.
Eugene was not calm.
You hear a lot about what you might expect at this once-in-a-lifetime event, and I gotten some insight from designer Phillip Lim a couple of days before.
Can you tell us what it's actually like there? Like what can I expect?
Triggering, traumatizing, some fashion. But at the end of the day, it's about your guests and if they feel good. And you walk that insane carpet and hopefully it's an aesthetic explosion.
And so I head to Barber Surgeons Guild in order to meet Justin Kafando, who I'd already met before from our shaving video. Isn't that cute? And where I'd also get my hair, makeup, and accessories completed. All the while anxiously awaiting when I might be able to find time with the designer who was absolutely slammed that day.
Today specifically, we shut the whole place down just for Eugene to get ready for his Met Gala.
Oh, thank you.
All right.
One of my best, dearest friends and hairstylist, David Dang, joined me alongside Khai Truong, an incredible makeup artist in New York, to complete the look for, well, the look I had yet to put on. So, maybe I should just go off script now. I mean, you keep asking me about it, and I haven't been able to tell you anything because we've been so busy. Like, I got off the plane and we went straight into Without a Recipe, filming our cooking show.
Welcome back to Without a Recipe holiday season. I just got back from Tokyo and I'm exhausted. So your eyes are all red. Yep, and this is a choice now, this makeup. All right, what are we cooking? I don't even know. Cinnamon rolls!
Hi.
Hi.
So,
yeah,
I've been dying to know everything.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you leave off?
Okay, so I'm at the Barber Surgeons Guild. That's where I have David and Van, who are starting to work on hair and makeup. And I'm making the decisions about what this should look like without even knowing which final look will be approved.
But you're setting my hair, right?
Yes.
What does that mean? Is it like baking?
Yeah, it's basically baking. No, what we did was I had you clean your hair so we don't have to waste too much time because we're waiting for a lot of elements to come together.
Yep.
And what I'm doing now is I'm going to set your hair and get it ready for makeup.
Okay, so how did you make that decision?
You know, David spent a lot of time setting it, and then essentially I wanted it to feel like it was sort of slicked but also curly. And with that, it was sort of like this idea of waves through my hair. With the makeup, I was actually really inspired by Chinese opera. I wanted to feel very Asian inspired. So that plus sort of like this feeling of being slightly like bloody looking. It was sort of the idea was I wanted it to be very dramatic, but also like a little dark. It was all hopefully going to work with the top 2 to 3 different looks that I was told that I could eventually be able to wear for the gala.
Okay, so you're matching your hair, makeup, and nails to these maybe 2 or 3 looks.
Yes, they were pretty confident that I would at least get to have access, particularly to this one dress that I was really interested in. We also had the jewelers from Erickson Beamon, who Vogue hooked me up with, come so that I could pick several different pieces that could go with 3 different outfits. So we were styling me to potentially look like it was appropriate for these looks that I had never put on my body. You know, we have to leave for the Met Gala from the final location at 6:30 sharp. By the time I'm complete, it's like already 4:30 p.m. Van was amazing, obviously. Vietnamazing. We're now heading over to Derek's place where it's supposed to be the pre-Met cocktails, but that is where they're sending my actual pieces. So I'm gonna be trying on my gala look within the next 2 hours.
Like 10 minutes before you get on the red carpet, I think.
And we also have to pick what I'm wearing. And this is basically because the designer got slammed. There's another client that needed attention. And so, I mean, I'm gonna have to pull a rabbit trick, you know, out of a hat. We might not even have as many options as I think we do because of the fit. The designer was able to get me 7 available pieces waiting for me. I tried them on, and the only option that felt okay was this shirt dress that really didn't read as glamorous or elevated as I wanted.
A little more casual.
A little more casual and not quite, it just didn't feel right. And I think one of the biggest things for me was as I debated this, I was saying, I don't feel good in this. And the one thing about fashion is you should feel great in what you're wearing, especially in such a high profile place like the Met Gala.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of stuck with this idea of, do I just go for it and wear these designer pieces that I don't feel 100% in? And in that moment, we bring back Derek Blasberg. He's the head of YouTube Fashion and Beauty. He sees my fashion emergency while he's dealing with all the other people getting ready and catering, and he has 2 new beautiful infants.
Oh my gosh.
And he's like, Eugene, tell me what's happening. And I say, I am dying inside, and Nikkie's standing next to me, and Jack, they're like patting me on the back, and it's that moment where I actually have to tilt my head back and stop the tears from falling because I didn't want to ruin the amazing makeup that Van had. And I said, I think that I can't wear these options, and I probably would be best if I don't go.
Oh, Eugene.
Yeah, that was the moment where I completely broke down. Basically cried in front of some very important, wonderful people. And in a split second, Derek was on his toes and he said, hey, let's see if you fit into any of my suits. So he gives me all these pieces and we immediately notice, okay, we're different sizes. This isn't necessarily gonna work. He then says, my partner, Nick Brown, thank you so much. He has maybe something more in your size. And praise be to the fashion gods, Nick had a vintage Dior Homme tuxedo. So this is like probably the nicest thing I've actually ever put on my body. And it fits me like a glove. In the Vogue interview video with Edward Chamberlain, I said I decided this 3 hours before. I was gonna wear a dress, but it fell through 3 hours ago. I lied. It was 30 minutes before. And then on top of that, one pair of red Jimmy Choos, those were almost impossible to get as well. We had to courier it across the city from downtown to uptown. They came last minute.
So you almost didn't have shoes to wear.
I almost didn't have shoes to wear. And Derek's looking me in the eye and he says, hey, I think you look great. You gotta make a decision. And he's like, I really think you should go. And I kept imagining, people like Anna Wintour seeing me walk by. And I knew that at the very least, a designer black tux was not going to set off her alarm.
Yeah.
And so it was in that moment, I said, okay, fuck it. I got my cry out. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. If I don't suck it up and figure it out, then I've already given up. Put your game face on. It's gonna be a black tux moment and I'm gonna try to own it. The drive up is crazy because blocks of people are waiting, just spectators, just trying to see into people's vans. And people were chanting like, roll down your window.
Oh my God, look at all these people.
And so that already was overwhelming. We get out, we get to the carpet, and immediately I'm like standing next to Carly Kloss, AOC, like people are just like surrounding me that I'm like, wow, if I turn, there's just another person who I definitely know. The entire first 30 minutes of just walking up that staircase and doing the photos is almost like having your wedding, that moment of walking down the aisle in front of all of those photographers where they're yelling names and you have to jump to like 10 different locations on the steps is surreal. I just tried to shut out everything that I've described so far leading up to that moment and tried to deliver confidence. And so hopefully the photos and videos reflect that because I know that's what lives forever. Doing this vlog and this recap of what happened is giving more insight into my emotional experience, but the only thing that the internet will remember is what I look like in those photos.
Yeah, no one could tell that there was chaos happening 30 minutes before.
The only time you could potentially tell that I was in a very strange mindset. There's this video that the Metropolitan Museum of Art filmed on the red carpet for social media. It's the only time someone grabbed me to ask me questions. She just goes, who are your fashion icons? And puts the phone in my face. And you can actually watch my brain implode in real time. My brain went immediately to Zendaya, who is one of my fashion icons right now. And for some reason, because I just watched Space Jam 2, I fucking said Lola Bunny. I said to the Met, the museum, their Instagram, on the red carpet of the Met Gala, that my fashion icon is a sexy rabbit who plays basketball.
And has like 2 outfits.
And has 2 outfits. The last time I wore a basketball uniform was the one year I played basketball in 7th grade where I was so bad at it, I told people not to pass the ball to me.
Oh, I used to do that too.
Yeah, and then to basically try to save it, I said the first thing that came to mind, and I said,
and anything from an anime.
Who says that? Who says that at the Met Gala? You can see the stress. It was like the moment where everything kind of broke, the dam burst. Ask me this now. Ask me like, who's your fashion icon?
Who are your fashion icons?
I would say Rihanna. I'd say Zendaya. I'd say David Bowie, Prince, Lady Gaga. And if I was gonna name an anime, I'd say JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I wouldn't say anime in general. And so I was very happy to eventually escape that and enter the actual museum. And it is the shift from night to day. It's like suddenly everyone's relaxed. The sort of stress of appearing in front of those cameras like washes away, and everyone is generally calm and friendly and having a good time. And that's where I had a lot of different conversations. And I know that's kind of the first question both you and most people out there ask me.
So what celebrities did you meet?
Hey, it's me.
What's up?
We're here. It's your first time too, right?
It's my first time. Your first time?
Yeah, I don't know if we're supposed to have our phones on in here.
We're definitely not.
Okay, we don't have time for every single person that I talked to, but I'll tell you 3 very distinct instances. One was Lil Nas X. We're standing next to each other and I turned to him and I'm like, hey, I can't tell you how much you are doing for the culture right now, especially for young Black queer men. You are changing the game.
Oh.
And he looks at me and he goes, I fucking love you. I watched you growing up.
Oh my God.
Which then I thought, he is so young and I'm so old. And then he asked me for a selfie.
That's so cool.
And outside of that, there was a slew of women especially that I just like had very quick exchanges with where I was just like, I don't think you understand how gorgeous and stunning you are. Then there was basically dinner. They served vegan food.
Oh, it's all vegan? Oh, that's cool.
And when Tour was walking around saying hi to everyone, I was really sad because Derek was introducing the whole table, but I was too busy talking to Lily Reinhart about astrology because you know, she was like, it's my birthday today. And I said, oh my God, happy birthday. And I was like, oh my God, you're a Virgo. And she goes, yes, what do you know about that? And I was like, I'm with a Virgo and I know everything about y'all. And I ranked you #1 in my astrology video. Lord was passing by and I had to tap her on the shoulder and tell her that, thank you for getting all my friends high this summer. And obviously running up to Lord, you know, I don't think she prefers that, but she laughed and she said, that is such a nice compliment. And then we also had the co-chairs this year, which were the youngest in history, Naomi Osaka, Timothée Chalamet, Billie Eilish, and Amanda Gorman. You know, this was the smallest Met Gala ever, and also the youngest overall and the most first-timers. So you could feel that energy in the room. Everyone was just really happy and excited to be there. And I was very happy in the end that I had some wonderful people around me who helped me realize that missing an opportunity like this was not worth the regret. I'm happy I did, and I kept my calm the entire time, right, Matt?
Sure.
I'd like to thank some stellar individuals who helped me immensely through this entire journey. Michael Fallouz and Justin Fernandez at Vogue for their guidance, Derek Blasberg and Nick Brown for saving my evening with their gorgeous tuxedo, Erickson Beamon for jewelry, and Jimmy Choo for the heels, Barber Surgeons Guild for their space, YouTube and the other table guests who were so kind to me throughout this entire process, and most especially to my creative team, David, Van, and Sojin. Fashion isn't about the person modeling the look, but really more about the astoundingly talented people who work their asses off to make magic happen behind the scenes. Without them, I'd be nothing. And I'm so grateful that they entrust me to represent their work.
Your visibility on that carpet is extremely crucial for little me when I was back in Nepal. You know, and there are so many of them out there. Like, you know, I didn't see anyone who looked like me. You know, and if anyone looked like me, we had to be within the white proximity. You know, and you've defined everything about that. So we're very excited to see you there.
What's funny is that the day after the Met Gala, I had done an article for Vogue Man Hong Kong. And while I would say that perhaps my styling here more closely represents what I originally was going for, I think both versions, whether it be the last minute tuxedo I had to throw on, or this highly stylized gender fluid vision, they're valid. I think that in the end, perhaps my pulling myself up by the bootstraps and going for it instead of giving up when a disaster struck is maybe the most idealized American thing I could have ever done. It's what my mom taught me about fashion. Make do with what you have and own it. Although I wasn't able to achieve my dream look, I do have a nightmarish story that I think is far more valuable as I continue on in my career, because I've learned so much from this experience. And without regret, hopefully one day get invited to another Met Gala where I can truly show the world what I'm all about. And you better know that if I'm going again, I am paying for an entire team of like 60 people to go with me. And that I will need several months to prepare.